What's going on, everyone? Dots Gaming here, and today I'm bringing you guys an updated version of my racial passives guide for the Elder Scrolls Online Flames of Ambition patch. In this patch, ZeniMax did change the racial passives a little bit, and so because they did that, I did want to update this guide for you guys and talk about the new racial passives, as well as what race is best for which role. Because if you are a new player, the way it works in ESO is that you don't really choose your race as much based on your class. It's mostly based on the role that you want to fill, whether you want to be a stamina DPS, aka a physical damage dealer, a magicka DPS, aka a magical damage dealer, a healer, or a tank. So we're just going to list all of the different racial passives, as well as which race is best for which role. So starting with our first race, we have the Orc, with the first passive being Craftsman, giving us increased experience gain with heavy armor skill line by 15%, as well as increasing our crafting inspiration, which is just crafting experience, by 10%. Brawny gives us 1,000 more max stamina. Unflinching Rage gives us 1,000 more health and heals us for up to 2125 whenever we deal damage, and this has a 4-second cooldown. Finally, Swift Warrior increases our weapon and spell damage now by 258. It also reduces the cost of sprinting by 12% and our movement speed while sprinting by 10%. Our next race is going to be the Breton, with our first passive being Opportunist. Now, this increases the experience with the light armor skill line by 15% and our alliance points gained, which is the currency you earn in PvP, by 1%. We also have Gift of Magnus, which increases our max magicka by 2,000. We also have Spell Attunement, which gives us 2310 spell resistance and now 130 magicka recovery. The spell resistance granted will also be doubled if we're afflicted with a status effect, magical status effect like Burn, Chilled, or Concussed. Now, finally, Magicka Mastery will reduce the cost of our Magicka abilities by 7%. Our final Daggerfall Covenant race is going to be the Red Guard, with our first passive being Wayfarer, which increases our experience gain with one-handed shield by 15% and increases the duration of eaten food by 15 minutes. Our next passive is Martial Training, which reduces the cost of our weapon abilities by 8% and reduces the effectiveness of snares by 15%. We also have Conditioning to increase our max stamina by 2,000. And finally, Adrenaline Rush. When you deal damage, you restore 1,005 stamina, and this can occur once every 5 seconds. Now, moving on to the Ebonheart Pact, our first race is going to be the Argonian, with our first passive being Amphibian, increasing our experience gain with the Restoration skill line by 15% and our swim speed by 50%. We also have Resourceful, which increases our max magicka and stamina by 1,000. We also restore 3125 health, magic, and stamina when we drink a potion. We also have Argonian Resistance, which increases our max health by 1,000 and our disease resistance by 2310. And then finally, we have Life Mender to increase our healing done by 6%. Our next race is going to be the Nord, with our first passive being Reveler. Increases our experience gain with the two-handed skill line by 15% and increases the duration of any consumed drink by 15 minutes. We also have Stalwart, which increases our maximum stam by 1,500, and when we take damage, we gain 5 ultimate once every 10 seconds. We also have Resist Frost, which increases our maximum health by 1,000 and cold resistance by 2310. Finally, we have Rugged, which increases our physical and spell resistance by 2,600. Now, our final Ebonheart Pact race is going to be the Dark Elf, with our first passive being Ashlander, to increase the experience gained with dual wield by 15% and reduce the damage taken from environmental lava by 50%, which comes up a surprising amount. Our next passive is going to be Dynamic, which increases our maximum stamina and magicka by 1910. Next passive is Resist Flame, to increase our flame resistance by 4620. Next passive is Ruination, to increase our weapon and spell damage both by 258. And now finally, for our Aldmeri Dominion races, our first one is the High Elf, with our first passive being Highborn, which increases our experience gain with Destruction Staff skill line by 15% and increasing our experience gain by 1%. We also have Spell Recharge to restore 625 magicka and stamina based on whichever is the lowest after activating a class ability. This can occur once every 6 seconds, and it also reduces the damage taken by 5% while using an ability with a cast or channel time. Now, this will basically restore our lowest max resource. So if your magicka is higher than your stamina, Spell Recharge will restore stam, or vice versa. Next passive is Seer Bane's Boon, to increase our magicka by 2,000. And finally, we have Elemental Talent, to increase our weapon and spell damage by 258. Our next race is going to be the Wood Elf, with our first passive being Acrobat, to increase the experience gain with the bow skill line by 15% and decrease our falling damage taken by 10%. Euphrates Endurance will give us 258 stamina recovery. Resist Afflictions going to give us 2,000 maximum stam and 2310 poison and disease resistance. And then finally, we have Hunter's Eye, which increases our stealth detection radius by 3 meters and it also gives us 5% movement speed and 950 armor penetration. And then our final race for the Aldmeri Dominion is going to be the Khajiit, with our first passive being Cut Purse to increase the experience gain with the medium armor skill line by 15% and increase our chance to successfully pickpocket by 5%. Robustness is going to give us 100 health recovery, and magic and stamina recovery is increased by 85. Lunar Blessing gives us 915 health, magicka, and stamina. And finally, Feline Ambush increases our critical damage and healing by 12%, while reducing our stealth detection radius by 3 meters. Now, there's also one race that is not tied to a specific faction and does require you to purchase it from the Crown Store or have the Imperial version of the game, and that is going to be the Imperial, with our first passive being Diplomat, to increase our experience gain with the one-handed shield skill line by 15% and decrease our gold gain by 1%. Tough is going to increase our maximum health by 2,000. Imperial Metal gives us 2,000 max stam, with Red Diamond reducing the cost of all abilities by 6%. Now, in terms of the best race for each role, it really hasn't changed all too much, in my opinion. I think for stamina damage dealers, your best races, you're going to probably be looking at the Dark Elf, the Khajiit. You also have Orc. You also have the Wood Elf, if I can find them to click on them. And then finally, the Red Guard. So as you notice, it's all races typically that are going to give some sort of damage bonus for weapon damage, as well as an increase to stamina for that resource. Because it's the same thing for magical damage dealers. Our best races being probably the High Elf. You also then have the Dark Elf. You have the Breton, as well as the Khajiit. Now, in terms of tanking, I'd say your best races are probably going to be Nord, Imperial, and Argonian. Now, if you do, let's say, play on the like the Daggerfall Covenant, or if you play on the Aldmeri Dominion and you want a tanking race, I'd probably say that you're gonna want to go, I'd say probably with the Khajiit for tanking on the Aldmeri Dominion for all of the increased recoveries, as well as the increased resources. Granted, you won't get as much use out of the Feline Ambush passive. And then for the Daggerfall Covenant, I'm probably gonna have to give it to the Red Guard, just simply because I feel like their passives are actually pretty decent for a tank. Not as good as the 3 primary races I listed, but if you do not have the Adventurers pack, then I would say this is going to be your best choice for the Daggerfall Covenant. And finally, for our healing races, I am going to recommend as my top ones Argonian, Breton, High Elf, we got the Dark Elf, and then finally the Khajiit. Lots of various races that you could choose from as a healer. Now, you heard me just mention the Adventurer Pack. What is that? What benefit does it give my account? Now, the Adventurer Pack is something that you can actually purchase from the Crown Store, and it basically will allow you to do any race on any alliance. I'm sure you've noticed as I've been clicking around the races, my faction up top has not been changing. However, if you do not have that account upgrade, you are locked into the specific races for that alliance, which is why for the tanking races, I did want to mention some alternatives for the Daggerfall Covenant and Aldmeri Dominion in case you do not have that account upgrade. But guys, with that being said, that is going to be it for me today. I wanted to make this video much quicker than the ones I've made in the past, so hopefully I didn't go too fast and that you did learn something from this video. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you smacked a like on it. If you have any questions about racials or racial passives, feel free to leave a comment below. And guys, for more great Elder Scrolls Online content, feel free to check out my website, dotsgaming.com, where I have a ton of beginner guides, as well as character builds for PvP, PvE, solo gameplay, and much more. But thank you guys so much for stopping by today's video. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully you all enjoyed. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.